Yes.
So,
Oh my God.
starting out rough. Okay, we have a starting point. Who hasn't checked in yet?
I haven't. I feel like I've had like a really weird relationship with masculinity. It's because I was a really soft kid. Like I cried a lot growing up and got made fun of for that. But I was really good at sports. Like I won state wrestling, wrestled in college. I was all state football. The things that people respected, and I grew up in a small town.
Mm-hmm.
Identified that as masculine behavior.
Mm-hmm.
But I identified with the people that wouldn't be considered masculine. Like my friends were really nerdy, the nerdy crowd, and like I rathered to like I don't know. I read a lot and just would read fantasy.
Men don't read books.
I know, maybe not, but I didn't. So like I had this like if I wasn't good at sports, I know I would have been made fun of. Like, but because I wasn't. I knew that the whole time. And I knew people only treated me the way I because of what I was good at.
So you felt like a soft person, but were perceived by the world as a hyper-masculine person.
Absolutely.
And also, you were successful at what we would commonly refer to as hyper-masculine sports, wrestling and football.
Yeah.
Excellent. I love this. This is exactly the point.
I felt really uncomfortable by it. I hated that. I shouldn't say that because it did protect me. I like that, but like, I don't know. I guess it was confusing and difficult at the time. And now that I look back at it, I would have rather have not played football and wrestled. Like I deal with those physical injuries of that, and like they don't bring me any joy. Thinking about it.
You didn't enjoy it while you were doing it?
No, my dad was insane, dude.
Okay.
We had a wrestling mat in our garage.
Okay.
It was miserable. Yeah, the day I quit was like one of the happiest days I've ever had.
You quit in high school?
No, I quit in college.
Oh.
I quit on the eve of the national championships when I was ranked because I went on a bender over spring break and couldn't make weight. It was 20 pounds over. So, yeah. I call my dad and tell him after he bought a ticket to Pennsylvania Pittsburgh, where the national championships were, that I didn't make weight and that I got disqualified. So, and I never stepped on a mat again. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Wow. Gives us some context.
Yeah. But I like being like with my kids. I never spanked my kids. I never yelled at them. It was I went out of my way to be soft, like my stepfather was, and loving and compassionate, and not have the expectations that of masculinity and manhood on them. And they're really good kids, and they're pretty well balanced, I think. But yeah, I didn't like in being in a small town, central Kansas, rural town, 2,000 people. Masculinity still is like very problematic, and just seeing it, on my Facebook feed, and I don't know, it was complex for me.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
Who hasn't checked in?
I haven't. Still 7.
Still 7.
I think what can I add? Going off what someone said earlier, growing up I hated asking for help and I still struggle to do it. And even I didn't make this connection until now. It took a long time for me to find help. substance abuse because I kept thinking that I was supposed to be somehow better than it or stronger than it probably. Even if I didn't necessarily use that word, and I wonder about that now. I wonder if I'm scared of showing weakness in some way.
Good. And we're off. So, obviously, in the next 40 minutes, we're not going to figure this all out. Super complex, to Keith's point. So first, let's talk about where we get our ideas about masculinity. How are we socialized to know what a man is supposed to be or do?
Society.
Yeah, but that's the right answer, right? Like, yeah, society, fucking culture. Yeah,
The other-
of course, but
Your
What happens
parents,
in
your
the
parent,
home?
your
yeah,
father.
yeah, right, yes. There's not a secret answer, but I'm saying like, let's dig deeper. Let's take a moment. Yes, we know that society, our parents, the people around us, for sure. But like, what does that mean, right? When we say society socializes us, it doesn't happen in a vacuum. It's not a random occurrence, right? So specifically, an example could be like the media that we consume, right? Maybe as kids, we watched a bunch of movies that had Rambos and G.I. Joes, and we were like, dang, those are dudes, and I might be a dude, and I want to do stuff like that. So then we internalize some of that socialization, and then we start to apply it, and blah, 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 life goes on, right? So yes, those answers are not wrong, but that's like off the cuff, like, well, I've been socialized this way because I live in society. Well, there's a whole bunch of people who live in society who didn't get socialized that way. So we have to find some way to explain that. We have to find some way to rectify the fact that not everybody grows up in this culture, in this society, and either chooses or understands what masculinity is or what it means to be a man. We can talk about the general idea of transgenderism or non-binaryism as a complete disregard for masculinity or traditional socialization, right? People are doing great with that. So yes, society, for sure. But like in practicality, in a lived experience, what does that mean?
I mean, you pull from every male figure around you, right?
Well,
From a very young age, your grandfather, your dad, like all of that kind of becomes a palette for what you learn from.
Yeah, maybe what you want and maybe what you also don't want, right? To your point of like, your experience with your dad didn't make you want to be like your dad.
No.
Right. So even that answer is like, there's a little bit of complexity there. It's like, yeah, we have different influences and we pull from different things, but we also look at some of those examples and say, oh, I see that a man does that and I don't want to be that.
I had a very unique situation having been in a divorced home when my parents were two, to have this stepdad since I could remember, essentially. I would never have known that there was another way. I would have only thought, if I had only had my dad, I would have thought that would have been my only, not only, but the primary marker. Yeah, like I think I was lucky actually.
Sure.
Yeah, and if you're looking for like specific examples, I mean, I related to what Keith said a lot. I was a really emotional kid, and I cried a lot, and I still am a very emotional man. And you know, you don't want to get made fun of by your peers, and people would mock you for showing emotion in public. So I hid my emotion in public to the best of my ability as a kid, and that is a socialization of what it means to be masculine. Is that you don't show emotion in public.
So was there an experience that you had personally where you did show emotion and someone said to you, don't fucking do that, men don't do that?
Not necessarily in those words, but I mean, you know, I would cry in school and I would get made fun of. Like,
Okay.
yeah,
So there was like a direct correlation between your...
embarrassment and showing emotion and then embarrassment.
Okay, good. I mean, not good, but yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Fighting.
Say more.
you are put in you're a man, you're a boy, and you're in school from a very young age. I was in school from a very young age, and you get tested. You get tested by the pack, and what you do in that moment defines how good or bad your experience is going to be for the foreseeable future.
Yeah. I mean, when I went into high school, a lot of people in my class came from the same class that I was in middle school. Some of them were complete strangers. And everyone who had gone to middle school with me warned the other boys not to pick on me because they knew I would lash out. It took them a while for them to learn. Because it was the only way to keep myself safe, quite frankly, because the teachers barely did anything. So, as far as I was concerned, if things got overwhelming, I would just punch the guy and he would stop teasing me.
Instilling fear is self-preservation.
Yeah, and as far as I'm concerned, they deserved it.
Well, no,
They did deserve it.
yeah, and now we're talking about things like pecking order and social dynamics, right? Where certain sorts of behaviors get reinforced and other sorts of behaviors get ridiculed, right? So again, what I'm trying to aim at is that most of us grew up with an idea of masculinity that is somewhat myopic, right? Somewhat singularly focused, right? In the sense that men don't show emotion, men are tough, you have to fight, violence has to be part of manhood. If you don't fight,
Lie down and take it.
yeah, life is shit. Okay. So, why are those things part of our cultural, societal, species? Why are those things? Why do those things happen?
They've always been there. I mean, from an earlier point in our evolution, they've been there, and now we're more complicated and just cover those things up, but they're still there.
Okay, so maybe a better question is, what purpose do they serve?
Survival.
Well, it could be.
Survival and
Well, it used to be survival, right? It used to be 100,000 years ago. You needed, right? You needed that.
well,
You
now
had
it's,
to have
it's
the-
climbing now. It's climbing that pecking order now, I guess.
But now it's outgrown its usefulness, right?
Okay,
Right? Like it used to be, 100,000 years ago, you needed the pecking order because, like, who was the strongest was going to take the toughest job of hunting the mammal.
right,
And then you had the hunt gatherers gathering berries.
Right.
So, like, you needed order.
right.
That hierarchy still exists today.
It does.
Yeah, 'cause look at the way that we glorify,
Football.
not talking shit about the Marines, or like, National Guard or anything like that. But like the way that we glorify like the military.
Yeah. Or, yeah, sports. I always feel like sports is the easy
Sports.
one. But like it's outgrown its usefulness. We don't need a.
Well, I would agree with that. But enter a work environment or a social environment, there's still competition for dominance.
Oh, yeah.
Even in groups of friends that are kind to each other, there's still that still exists. You don't have to be barbaric to have that pecking order happen.
I don't disagree. And how has it remained so, even though there is no longer a quote-unquote usefulness? So again, we don't have to send the strongest guy to fight the mammoth now. And yet, things like hierarchy, pecking order, still happen.
I did disagree. I'm gonna get in trouble. I do think you do need maybe a little pecking order. I think like Plato, you want the elites running your country. You don't want the dumb people running your country.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
So
but what if the dumb people are super strong?
That's not a good basis for a nation state.
But
But that's kind of what's happening.
But neither is a bunch of pen pushers who have no physical ability.
Well, no, I mean, this is a very black and white way to discuss this, obviously, but
Well,
I
it might,
suppose so.
it might be, but look at the people who run our country. If it came down to if any of us had to fight,
Don't let Trump.
you know what I'm saying? I would kick the shit out of you.
Murder.
Unquestionable. So again, even knowing,
So I would also Trump has developed his own kind of strength in his own brand of masculinity, even if he's not necessarily the most physically strong person. He's got, people view him as having a lot of power because of his money and because.
Yeah, but he doesn't even have a lot of money. He
Oh
fucked
yeah,
up
I
his
know.
money
That's what
too.
people think is more important than actually.
And I don't want to devolve into that conversation. But my point in bringing this up is sort of to that point, right? Where now we have this idea of masculinity that actually isn't based in anything about what masculinity is or has been.
Yeah, how did we get here?
How did we get here, exactly? And why have the things that used to be useful, right? In the sense of like evolutionary, when we lived in clans and tribes and all of that, like there was a purpose to that order. There was a purpose to that hierarchy in the sense that everyone could have a spot, right? And people knew that if you were the strong guy, you kind of knew what your spot was. And if you weren't the strong guy, you also knew what your spot was. And that kind of let everybody have their spot, right? Whereas today, you've got things like AI, right? You've got things like all sorts of different ways that we've separated work and roles and all of these things that aren't really connected to anything tangible or real, right? We have ideas and we have these processes and we say, okay, this person is a man because A, B, and C.
Well, it's getting worse in some ways.
Oh, yeah.
Way worse.
I read an article just yesterday that some men have started shaving off their eyelashes
Shaving off their
because they're
eyelashes.
scared about them being too feminine because they're too thick, even though that's usually apparently
women
linked
love
to
that.
testosterone. Yeah, and
Yeah.
I mean, like I didn't even finish the article because just the thought of doing that made me shudder. I was like, that's horrible. But
They've
like
obviously
a
never
small.
seen
How do you shave your
I
eyes?
don't know. I
shave
didn't
them
read
off.
it.
Okay.
But like a very like, and obviously that's not most men.
Like
but
the
that
rates.
there are people
But,
like that
but
out
if you
there.
see like the Liver King, right? Is that fucker's name?
The one, yeah, yeah.
That who's definitely juicing, but
He's
like,
definitely on steroids.
just seeing like the body image stuff that's coming out of like social media for men is
Yeah.
awful.
It is.
The kids, I feel so bad for. young
My son
folks.
has like a little bit of body. My 16-year-olds, I hear him. I don't know where he got this because it did not come. Weight is never discussed because of all my issues with weight, making weight wrestling. He's like, taking his shirt off. Like, he's like, Dad, I need to lose a few pounds. I'm like, he looks great. I was like, fuck, you look great.
Life.
Yeah, and I'm like, no, dude, you don't. You're looking great.
So yes, we can have this big, broad conversation, and I think at some point we all should. But again, let's try to give ourselves some constraints and contextualize it. First, through the ideas that we've talked about already from these 4 pillars. So let's give ourselves this little box just to discuss what's on the board. And then maybe even a more focused exploration of, in the process of addiction, treatment, and sobriety, what does it mean to be a man navigating this journey? So, a big thing for me is the aspect of asking for and receiving help, right? Many of us have been socialized that that's not something that men do, which, first of all, is ridiculous, right? But, go ahead.
No, go ahead. You go.
Just like, why, again, why is not the right question. What is the usefulness of holding on to that concept, right? How do we shift our frame of mind coming into a situation like treatment? And how do we maintain that shift post-treatment to allow that to impact other areas of our lives in what I would say is a positive way, but teach their own.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the common conception is that asking for help is a sign of weakness. And I think that, or that's the, maybe what you originally think, but I think really it's a sign of strength. Definitely in recovery, in the workplace, and a lot of places around life, asking for help is a sign of strength, and it shows strength.
And to your point, like, where did we get the idea that it's weak to ask for help?
Because you're like supposed to be the person that people go to for help.
Yeah, but when did that start?
Before we got here.
1800s?
Well, no, but I'm saying, like, yeah, probably culturally it's been hundreds of years, but also, like, personally in your life, right? Like we're young boys, and then we're adolescents, and then we're teenagers, and then we're young men. And through all of that, we rely on other people, we interact socially.
when do we? Okay,
You know what I'm saying?
I see
Like,
what you're asking.
there's a point where like all of a sudden like, oh, I know that I can't ask for help. I have to do the thing myself, right? And that didn't happen when I was 16.
And it's reinforced everywhere.
Yeah, and I believe you, but also how?
I just remember this is my experience, like, things were spiraling in 2018, and my best friend looked at me from Kansas. He goes, Keith, you're the strongest person I ever met in my whole life. You can do this on your own. And I remember thinking in my head, like, I'm not strong, I'm weak. I'm the weakest person, you know. I never said that, but I had that thought. So not that he was the deciding factor, but I tried to do it on my own for years, and it never worked.
Right, but you get assigned a role, or you assign that role to yourself as being the
I was just about to say that. I feel like it's a different like time, like different age for everybody. But it's once somebody starts actually relying on you, then the switch flips and you're like, fuck, I gotta have all the answers.
I'm the guy.
Right, you can't be both.
That
You can't be the person with all the answers and ask for help. Because
Yes.
then it creates a
Then
fallacy
it makes
here.
then
Yeah.
in like a family aspect, I'm just thinking of like my weird fucked up mentality from back then. If say I have this girl that I'm with, and this girl like adores me or whatever, and I can fix all of this girl's problems. She asks me something and I don't know what to do, I'm gonna be like, fuck, she's gonna leave me.
Well, that's,
Yeah, if you don't know.
Yeah, if I don't know what to
If
do,
you don't
then
have the answer,
I'm not useful.
she's gonna find somebody who
She's
does.
gonna find somebody who does, somebody that's better than me.
Yeah,
wow, that sounds terrifying.
that's real.
That's a real thing.
Yeah, that's,
It is real.
I felt that for sure.
But also, how many of us have had experiences where we've said to someone who is our intimate partner, I don't know, and they left?
Never.
Never. It's never happened to me, right?
Do you love me? I don't know. No, I never said that.
No. I've
So
never-
why the irrational fear?
Why the irrational fear? And why is there why is this the highest point, right? This is the most intense thing we can imagine, is if someone we love comes to us and says, do you have or do you know? And we conceptualize not knowing or not having, and immediately we're like, fuck, I've got to figure this out or else she's going to go away.
Oh man, so much.
You know what I mean? Like, also none of us have had that experience, so there's this fallacy, right? There's this idea, there's this concept that somehow got in all of our brains.
Well, the opposite happened. I wasn't vulnerable and was like, I fucking need help, and she grabbed me and she's like, I've been waiting for you to say that.
Exactly. That
It
exact
has helped me
experience.
ever since.
It's part of it is that pecking order that we have put in our mind of like, well, I'm here, and if I don't know the answer, then they're gonna find somebody who's up here and better than me, you know?
So it was ingrained in us since we were very small.
But how, right? Because even as a child, you didn't have the answer.
It is weird because, yeah, you as a child, you look at adults and you're just so blind to the fact that adults don't know what they're doing.
Nobody fucking knows. Nobody fucking knows.
So you just, you got just play the game, and you just kind of slide your way into adulthood without ever asking yourself the questions internally, like, do I know what I'm doing here?
Do I have the
Like,
So how do you get qualified?
yeah,
to
like,
do that?
should I ask for help here? Like,
So, go ahead.
well, I have two things. One of them's, I'm still forming the thought, but the other thing's a comment, because I'm just thinking, growing up, my mom used to give me such a hard time about not asking for help in school, or like, I was dealing with social stuff. So like, at least one, like, parental figure in my life was telling me to seek for help, and I never did it, or like, it took a lot of work to, and I did. So I'm just like, so it's making me wonder now where like even, it's funny even with that kind of person encouraging it, I still struggled. The other thought I've already forgotten.
at a young age, how young were you? Like,
Oh God, like probably early middle school.
so you were already like attuned to that.
Yeah.
Me too.
Okay, and again, there's lots to talk about here, but let's try and fill out this board so we have something to show everybody else when they come in tomorrow. So, thinking about these 4 pillars. I put the plus and minus here because I hate things like, I hate discussing toxic masculinity or embodied masculinity. I think those are polarizing terms, and really, even like plus. Like, my idea with bringing this topic up is like a comprehensive human being, right? A very complex human being, right? We should all have the ability to cry and be strong and ask for help and know the answer. And all of us do have all of those things, right? So, again, this simplifies it and makes it super linear. Life's not like that. But we also know some tangible examples of, like, when I talk about the physical pillar, the physical aspect of life, what are some things that, when you think about masculinity, you conceptualize masculinity, what are positives?
Strong.
Yeah, strength. Absolutely. That one's easy. And maybe we'll just keep this simple. What's the antithesis of strength? Okay. We're already playing the game. What about psychological?
Smart.
Smart? Smart equals manly? I hate nerds.
Yeah, you're right.
Fucking
Stable.
nerds.
Yeah,
Stable.
Stable.
For psych.
Stable psychology. Okay.
I think
I feel like
dominant, personally.
Dominant.
Yeah.
Okay. Dominant is positive?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh. The debate.
I think the view from society dominance is positive. I agree that it's not always,
So maybe let's
or even not at all sometimes.
when we talk about a dominant psychological mindset, what does that refer to? What do you mean?
Competition? It's being competitive.
So a competitive mindset is a positive thing.
Well,
Yes.
I wouldn't call it a positive or a negative thing. I think it could be one or the other.
Yeah, and for the purpose of us just being here now in this moment, we're going to simplify it, and I'm going to ask you to articulate and choose a side.
Well, then I'm not answering.
what about like assertiveness?
Assertive.
Yeah, like
So-
assertive.
That's good. I would say that's a definitive positive.
A definitive positive.
Yeah.
Assertive.
Agreed.
Assertive.
I still think dominance should be on there too, though, as a way society does view dominance in a
Okay, but so let's be clear. I'm not asking for what society is.
Okay, we're talking about this. And assertiveness. I think assertiveness is good.
Yeah, me too.
I'm sticking with stable.
Stable.
I feel like stable should be
I
more
think stable is
emotional.
more emotional.
Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe. You know what I'm thinking about is like when they trained the astronauts and they put them through, like the original astronauts, and they put them through all of these like stressful situations, and the guys that came out on top were the ones that were not fazed by anything. They had stability and focus.
I like that.
Like noise and danger and shit going on, and
But-
they just were.
Have you seen First Man?
The other side of that, though,
Yes.
is just pretending
Yeah, or
that
the right
stuff that's
step.
bothering
Maybe
you
those ones.
isn't bothering you, and then just pushing it down.
Well, so now you're talking about like dissociation or suppression.
Yeah.
But you can't do complex tasks in dissociative states or suppressed states.
Well, no, but
So there's a difference between like saying shit doesn't bother me and pushing it down versus saying I'm unfazed by external circumstances and I can execute a thing.
Yes.
I mean, there are a lot of former, like, a lot of veterans out there who do a lot of stuff in combat and were very, very competent, and they're still very traumatized from what they did. So,
They're very true. I'm sure that astronauts have some level of trauma as well. It doesn't take away from the fact that they were able to execute a mission under
True.
duress. Stable, assertive, dominant.
I'm with stable and assertive.
Whoa, stable.
We need a mashup of those three words.
I wish there was a better word than stable, but that's all I can think of too.
Yeah, it's
Because
like,
it's above and beyond that.
well, individually, all those words are like they don't completely cut it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of a combination of those three words too.
So again, I mean, we're doing binaries, right? So if we did have stable on this side, would it just be unstable on the other side?
Unflappable.
Stoic,
I suppose
unflappable.
unstable would be it, like, because there is the idea
Stoic
of
is a
like
good
men
one.
being
Stoic.
overly
Stoic,
violent or
yeah,
anxious or whatever.
Okay.
So,
I mean, stoic, there's a whole philosophy mindset about like masculinity and stoicism.
Sure. Does that fit under like the psychological like template or like umbrella?
I like stable and unstable.
Stable. Let's do stable and unstable to be discussed.
I
Because
like
I think
that.
that's
Put a
simple
little
enough.
asterisk next to them.
Yeah, exactly.
Stable.
Unstable.
Friendly.
And again, we're just phrasing it in terms of like mindset, right? How your internal dialogue works. So that's okay for right now. Emotional.
Devoid.
Well, so this is where I would put stoic, right?
Yeah.
This is where I would put stoic, because stoic is a philosophical idea that says emotions don't control anything. It doesn't say don't feel emotions. It says have the ability to recognize when you're being driven by emotion and think through it, intellectualize it instead of make a decision based on your emotional response. Indeed. Stoic?
Yeah.
Stoic?
Yeah.
Okay, so then, on the other side,
Maybe
The other side of that would be emotional.
It's over emotional.
I think it's interesting that which one of these we've picked to be a positive and which one we've picked to be a negative. I'm not saying that we're wrong,
I agree.
but I think it's interesting that we're saying that, because when I hear the word stoic, I associate that with not showing emotion.
Yes.
So I just think that's interesting.
Yes.
Yeah, actually, gonna come back on and pull back my support for Stoic.
Take your vote away for
Because
stoic.
I don't know, maybe this is wrong, but because of the way my dad was, I go out of my way to show emotion to my children,
Right.
and that creates interactions that are positive.
Right, and again, to be clear, when we look at Stoicism, if you guys have read any of it, he doesn't say don't show emotion. He doesn't say don't feel emotion.
It's being led by emotion.
It's being led by
Or
emotion.
not.
Right. He's making the assertion that there's a way to think through problems, there's a way to respond with an intellectual, philosophical bent, rather than having an emotional reaction and that being the guiding force in your decision-making process. So it's a little complex, right? Because we're saying that as a guy who's stoic, it's not that he doesn't feel, it's not that he doesn't express, right? And this is one of the reasons why this is so problematic in current culture, because everybody's like, oh, stoicism, philosophy, I don't have to show any blah blah blah. And it's like, you obviously haven't read all of it, because that's not what he says. But they're just like, oh, I never emote, I only intellectualize, and I only make rational decisions.
That person sounds annoying.
Horrible. I hate having conversations with guys who are like, oh, I'm a stoic. I'm like, no, you're
Yeah.
not. You haven't read anything. You read the first 2 chapters of meditation, and that's it. Which you guys should already, if you haven't read. I think we have a copy here somewhere.
Make a note.
Anyway,
I'll read 3 chapters.
you'll be in the 1%. You'll be in the 1%. All right, so if it's stoic, what's the other side? Because I would have said unstable here also. Right? I would have said something like chaotic or...
What's
Maybe-
ruled by emotion?
I
What
know
is that?
I want to say
I know that
dramatic,
this
but I
word
just want to
is-
say
Dramatic.
That could be.
Dramatic.
I know this word is technically like an intellectual term, but maybe irrational.
Irrational could be.
Yes.
If this is rational, for sure it could be irrational.
And I'm asking for something that works.
With that.
Or like chaotic.
Chaotic or irrational.
Or erratic.
Or erratic.
Right.
So again, this is like somebody who has a process. This is somebody who has a structure for how to make decisions. Somebody who's chaotic or erratic or irrational.
Impulsive.
Impulsive.
Impulsive's good.
Yeah.
Love impulsive.
I think impulsive.
Used to be my fave.
I ran off impulse.
I just
Feel that.
shot from the hip with my life.
I mean, it's a great way to do addiction.
Yeah,
in real life.
it works
It
for
worked
you.
for me. It was,
Yeah.
it was
Works
fun.
for a while.
It made me think I was good at life.
Just from the hip. Decision. All right, and then spiritual.
It's funny. I know spirituality is a lot broader than this, but as someone who was raised in like a very fundamentalist Orthodox Jewish community, there was a very specific vision for what men were supposed to be like, and how we demonstrated our faith was a big part of that. So, studying Talmud and other Judaic books, praying 3 times a day, wearing tefillin, leather straps in the morning, and the list goes on. And obviously that's very specific, but it's just...
So would it be something like demonstrative? Would it be
That's
like-
exactly what I would say. I was like, what you said, I had that in a Christian-based household, and it was demonstrative, like as a leading by example.
Yeah, like the pillar of society,
Yeah.
just demonstrating. Yeah, demonstrative is good.
I was gonna say, what was I was gonna say flamboyant, but not flamboyant, because I was raised fundamentalist, but like Protestant, or like speaking in tongues and the Holy Spirit.
Oh, yeah, same here.
Pentecostal, right?
Simply of God here.
Yeah, so
Most
demonstrative.
Catholic is God fearing for us. That is.
Okay, we'll go with that.
Catholicism?
Or, no. I was gonna say, a big part of, this might not have much to do with masculinity actually, but I was gonna say a big part of spirituality is humbling yourself and being humble. I like demonstration.
Okay.
I like that.
I mean, humility is a huge part of it, but I don't think it's like the focal point. Like,
Yeah.
Okay, that's interesting then. So what's the antithesis of demonstrative?
I feel like this is also maybe too specific to just religion, to like specific religions in general, as opposed to spirituality as like a broad term, but like ego maybe, or there's a word that it's like
I want to say hypocritical.
It's okay. It's okay what I'm thinking.
I mean, hypocritical is nice because that's sort of the opposite of demonstrative, right? It's like
Yes. Say what you do.
driven by ego,
the
right?
opposite of
Yeah,
what
I'm
you
just
say.
thinking about people I know, regardless of the faith, just think that they know best. And I don't deal with this anymore, but when I was in a religious community, there were times where I felt talked down to, not just by religious leaders, by people who I would consider my peers.
Not arrogant.
It's a
I
certain
like
kind
it.
of arrogance.
I
Kind
like
of arrogant, but not. That's not the word.
Ego and humble are kind of opposites.
Yeah.
I
A lot
like
of
that
words you
actually.
plug in there, but like corrupt, as in, or hypocritical.
I think hypocritical nails it because you're doing the opposite of what you're saying.
Mhm.
You're living a life opposite of the value system that you're supposed to be demonstrating.
Yeah, it's the opposite of truth, where the inside does not match the outside,
Mhm.
or the doctrine doesn't match the behavior, whatever.
Mhm. Okay, cool. Yeah, good. And again, I love that we can both understand that this is a very simplistic, very linear, very basic way of understanding this, and also have an idea about the nuance and how robust this conversation should be. And again, this is sort of my point, right? Where we have these ideas about masculinity that like have these two binaries, and it's like your only choices are A or B. And it's like, that's not real. That's not how any of us live, right? There's complexity, there's nuance, there's, situations that may have us act in one way at one point, and then a similar situation, and we act completely the opposite at another point. So, okay, so now, how do we maybe avoid these, or how do we attain these, and what are the processes that allow us to kind of move back and forth between the two binaries? How do we create spectrums between these two things?
Man, my rock analogy, straight, stable star, is really.
You're nailing it. You're nailing the rock. Okay, so a better question. To your example, if you were a rock all the time, what would be the benefit of that?
You'd be strong.
You'd be strong.
Be stable and stuff.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Would that work for every situation in your life?
sure would.
Why not?
Tried it.
You have to show. First of all, it's an impossible facade to keep up. That's not how people work.
Well, okay, I believe you, but again, that feels like the right answer. We all know guys, maybe even people who we are intimate with, fathers, brothers, uncles, cousins, etc., who do try their whole lives to be just on this side of the line.
Right.
Yes, we have the intellectual understanding that that's impossible, that you can't do that, but we also maybe never see our dads cry. Right? We also maybe remember our grandpa never telling us he loves us.
Maybe it's just because it doesn't fit every situation correctly.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, And that's my point, is what I'm saying, like, if we are socialized for these things, if we are told, taught, you know, observed by example that this is how men should be, and we know also that there's no possible way that you could be this way all the time, and we also know that there are times when this happens, right? We experience these things. I've experienced all of these things. It doesn't make me not a man, I don't think. You guys understand what I'm getting at, right?
Yeah.
Like, there's a way that we can talk about it where it's like, yeah, of course it's impossible. Well, it's like, why do we keep trying to do it then? Why do people keep telling us that this is the only way that works and this is the way that it should be? How are we not having conversations about these things and embracing them as part of what it means to be a human being, and then figuring out like, oh, actually, sometimes it's actually really good for me to feel weak and be able to ask for help and feel support from others. That actually makes me feel like a better version of myself when I do. So again, how do we start to create a spectrum here? How do we get rid of this line and figure out like, oh, actually, I could be a little bit strong most days, but on Tuesday and Thursday.
Well, you can start by not thinking in absolutes. I'm being a little facetious.
No,
here,
but it's a great point, right? Because this is what happens. We break it to a binary and we say, I just need to be on this side the whole time. So we open up our frame of mind. Yeah.
And the reason you can't have absolutes is because everything else outside of what's going on inside you is beyond your control. So the situation is this: you're going to have as many situations as there are colors in the spectrum between what's going on here and what's going on outside. You can't control all of it. It's going to happen without your input.
Yes, and this is a huge part of this conversation, right? As men, we're told to be dominant, to be in charge, to be in control.
Until it's the wrong thing to be.
Well,
or the wrong choice to be.
I mean, this one's for me a little bit. You know, I talked about this when I came in downstairs. Like, today I was not very strong and stable. I was not able to push through tasks that I was supposed to do. And, you know, part of it is to give myself a break for that and not say I am less of a man or I fucked up because I wasn't able to do that today.
Yep.
Part of it is giving myself a break for that.
So be more articulate with your words. When you say give yourself a break, what are the things that you would need to give yourself in that situation to not feel emasculated?
I don't know.
And this is exactly the point, and that's fine, right? But listen how we don't even have language for when we do feel on this side, we don't even know how to interact with it for the most part. So you could give yourself grace. You could meet yourself with compassion, right?
Yeah.
You could just say like, fuck, my shit's off today. I'm not hitting my mark. There's acceptance there.
Yeah.
Okay, so these are things we have to learn, right? Well, you don't have to learn.
I would agree too.
I feel like life gets better when you start to wrap your head around it. But again, applying this to ideas of addiction, treatment, recovery, sobriety, like humility, right? Like recognizing, shit, I didn't have it today. So there's all sorts of ways where you can actually make the thing that feels bad into a positive. You can change the way that conversation happens in your head and say, this was one of the days. And you check that box and you're like, all right, I know I don't like this, the way that this feels, and I don't have to have a relapse about it. I don't need to freak out emotionally about it.
It happens.
It happens. I can take stock of it. I can be aware of it, right? There's all sorts of ways to garner data from this experience and then say, all right, this is part of how being a human is. This is part of what it means to be me, right? Like,
Right. And, I went downstairs and I lifted and it made me feel better and I snapped out of it. That's something,
Yeah.
a tool that I can use.
Yeah, exactly. There's also ways to not even really engage in that conversation momentarily and say, okay, I get my head in a better spot. Now moving forward, next time I feel challenged, here's some things, tools, skills to
Right.
apply.
Or, you know, just recognizing, hey, I'm a little bit weak, I'm a little bit unstable today. I don't want to be that. Here's what I can do to move into a position of strength and stability.
Yeah, good.
So in your absence, we were discussing how to create, instead of just having binaries or having absolutes that we think about, how are ways that we can start manufacturing some kind of a spectrum between these two ideas? What are the ways, like practically how we live, where we can say like, this is how it is, 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 etc., etc. Five more minutes. Any thoughts?
I do think some of this does come from within, and some of it also obviously comes from without, just from what other people say or how people react in your presence. I don't know why I said that like that, but you get what I mean. And like the assumptions people might even make about you depending on what you look like. Just, and maybe this is too personal of an example, but I went on a date with a guy once who had just seen my picture, and it was a very short date, and then he told me afterwards that he wasn't interested because he thought I would sound different. He thought I would have a much deeper voice than I actually do, just based on the pictures he saw of this guy with a beard and hair and whatever else.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, like, maybe that's a little too specific, but that's the kind of stuff that, as a man, I personally feel very self-conscious about the way I sound, for example.
Sure.
Even though, like, I sound like anyone else, it's not a big deal.
Right.
But I'm not sure what point I'm getting at.
No, I mean, I think, and I kind of wanted to just touch on this briefly because, you know, like I mentioned, ideas around transgendership, ideas around being non-binary, like there are people who exist in what we would biologically term male bodies who don't adopt very many of what we would commonly refer to as masculine characteristics, right? So now we have this sort of like biological imperative that people are like, oh, you gotta be this way because you got nuts and you gotta you know, whatever. And it's like, well, like in modern culture, to your point, like, what's the purpose, right? Like, do men have to have testicles? I mean, I know a few trans men who do not have testicles and are pretty manly. So, I also know some trans women who have testicles and are not manly at all, as far as traditional characteristics of what we would define as masculine. So how do we wrap our heads around that? How do we create space in this conversation for those things?
You avoid it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even think that these things are necessarily tied to gender at all.
Yeah, I don't think they're tied to biology at all either.
Yeah.
I know some women who kick my ass on a regular basis in jiu-jitsu,
Yeah.
and I wish I could be tougher than that.
Right.
It's not.
So, you know, I mean, it's weird to even, you know, when you look at this list and you were to take away masculinity, this list could be about anything. That doesn't have to be about masculinity.
But that doesn't mean it's not about masculinity either.
That's
Yeah.
a good point, yeah.
I'm with you on that. I still struggle with this. I mean, not to get into like trans. I feel like I'm pretty pro-trans as like, you know, progressive dude, but like I do like there's a conservative part of me still that exists that's like, you know, like the mother holds the baby in the womb and has like this motherly, gentle connection with a child that like the man doesn't, and is in like, so these characteristics were developed potentially maybe in response to that. I don't know, thinking,
Yeah.
theorizing myself here, but like, and that it kind of worked for a long time, and that's like, and I've come to the belief like it doesn't matter which gender performs which role, but I do think like having both roles is good for a young child.
And what do you mean by both roles?
Nurture, okay? Like, And it can be like my stepdad is the nurturer. My mom is not a nurturer. She's the antithesis of that.
Right.
They had separate gender roles.
Right.
And that was okay as long as you have one. You need a nurturer.
You need a nurturer,
You need that as a baby, as a child,
irrespective of gender.
irrespective of gender.
I believe that.
And but I do also think masculine qualities of strength to offset that are good too. Like I think that there's ideals in there that we
You don't
should strive for.
But I was just gonna say,
You don't
but
think
even
that one person can fulfill both of those roles? You don't think that somebody could have masculinity and
No, I
femininity in
think
the same
I mean,
person?
I don't think he's necessarily talking about masculinity and femininity in relation to this. He's talking more about parental roles, which can be mapped onto specific gender roles, but don't necessarily have to be.
I think that almost happens based on personality
Yeah.
more than it does gender.
right, because you have gay and lesbian parents that raise kids
Yeah,
who are
so
perfectly well adjusted,
And you have single parents.
and you have single parents
that
who do pull it
have
off.
to do both.
Yeah,
Be the nurturer and the enforcer.
Right.
I feel like you can't, kind of.
you said can't,
I feel like it's or at least it's very difficult
based on what? What makes it difficult?
because that's like you would have essentially be like flipping into like different. I don't want to say characters, but kind of like different characters.
So you're saying
We all do that.
if a woman was gonna teach a kid how to be strong, it wouldn't be authentic?
I didn't say that.
I'm not saying you did. I'm asking if that's what you're leaning towards, though, because you're talking about the idea that if a woman or if a female or if
I'm not
someone
even
who
saying
is-
necessarily a female, just like
Yeah.
even if you had two gay males, like it just typically works out that way. That naturally one of them is, or at least tends, naturally one of them tends to be kind of the nurturer, and the other one is kind of, I guess, would you put it like enforcer?
Yeah, but it's like
Yeah,
a
I mean, you
traditional
you guys know what I
masculine
mean.
role, but
The dad.
It's just even with that.
The
Dad, gender control.
Yeah.
One
Okay.
comes the mom.
Okay, yeah. And again, I'm not trying to fuck up all of our heads in this
No,
conversation because it's complex, right?
But I lived this, and which is
Yeah.
actually
Yeah.
interesting to have lived this part, because I split time between my 50-50 custody, so half the time I was in like the traditional American value at home,
Yeah.
Christian with a masculine dad,
Yeah.
and the other half was with two psychologist parents. Both my mom and stepdad are psychologists,
Crazy.
and they had separate gender roles.
Yeah.
It was different.
And I mean even like ignoring, when we're trans, non-binary, there are plenty of people of men and women who present or do things which maybe aren't traditionally masculine or feminine. Obviously, like I have a friend who's a drag queen.
Yeah, exactly.
She performs as a woman. He's a man outside of that.
And this was almost to be maybe my closing point, is that when we talk about what is traditional, there really isn't anything. Right? When we think about, if we look at culturally, if we look at human beings as a species, when we think about traditional gender roles, it's like in the last 60 years in white America, these are the things that we talk about.
Yeah.
You go to a different country, you go back even 100 years, just maybe 2 or 3 generations, and there's nothing about like, men do this and women do this. It's like capitalism, right? Where we started to separate who can do what. And men obviously have to do the hard shit, and women obviously have to do the easy shit. And even then, it's like, okay, you put a woman in a factory hand knitting socks for 14 hours a day, that's hard as fuck. You take a dude and you put him in a law office and he writes papers for 6 hours a day. That's easy as shit.
I mean-
Not pointing right at you. Not pointing right at
I mean, the funny thing is that maybe this is getting off topic of hearing this, but like if you like, I sometimes watch this old British series where these historians live as like 18th century farmers or like medieval farmers, and like it's not like the women were just sitting around and doing nothing. They were doing some like stuff that was pretty labor intensive as well.
Yeah,
It was
exactly.
different than what the men were doing, but it wasn't like they were sitting on their asses because they were so like delicate. They were doing shit.
Yeah.
Well, we don't have access to all of that history. We were born into this.
Well, yeah, I know,
And that's
just-
we have evolutionary amnesia. We just don't
We do.
naturally have access
And
to
this is exactly your homework. This is exactly your homework. your homework until Friday is to unfuck what you know about masculinity.
Seems like enough time.
You have 48 hours. Don't screw it up. All right, great job today, you guys. Thank you. Give me a high five on the way out.
Men first.
Men first. I mean, masculine men first.
That is great. Thank you.
Alright, man, see you later.
I'll be out of here in just a second.
No worries. I'm not hurting anybody.
Here.
Do you need a ride somewhere?
I don't think I'm in your direction is the thing.
Do you want? Is there like a bus that takes you to the other place?
I was just gonna Uber to be honest, and I'll probably be driving here on Friday.
All right.
I did actually get behind the wheel earlier today.
Oh,
So,
nice.
yeah.
Thanks, man.